Hello everyone, my name is Emma Plant and I'll be talking about adolescent development today. To get started, life changes in a blink of an eye, but for teens, change is hard, and this is a major aspect of adolescent years. Teenagers endure many characteristic changes such as physical and cognitive development in their adolescence, which then helps them emerge into adulthood. And these are the three major topics I'll be covering today in this PowerPoint. However, in today's society, teens are expecting to develop physical traits earlier than ever, but they are cognitively developing later than any previous generation. Adolescent years can be difficult, from trying to figure out one's identity to physically morphing into an adult. This normally begins with the first signs of physical changes in the natural process of puberty, where children mature sexually. For girls, these changes usually begin at the age of 11, while boys start developing at the age of 13. To add to that, the body is also changing in primary sexual characteristics, such as the body structure that makes sexual reproduction possible, and secondary sexual characteristics, which is responsible for the non-reproductive sexual traits. Many new studies indicate that kids are physically developing earlier than ever. As in the past, having signs of puberty before the age of 8 was considered abnormal, but now as many as 15% of girls have started to show the first signs of puberty at the age of 7. Young children are getting a glimpse of teenage years through the screens that are placed in front of them for countless hours a day. As one theory stated that due to the increase of screen time, children are being exposed to a greater quantity of artificial light per day, making the brain believe it has lived longer than it really has. The results of this is that there is a reaction of chemicals that are being imbalanced in the brain, making kids think they are older than they are. And to cope with this imbalance, the body speeds up the process of puberty. In effect, this will then encourage puberty to occur earlier in youth. As adolescents develop physically, they must also endure cognitive development. As children are faced with many new situations throughout their lives, they learn from their actions, aiding in their cognitive development. A psychologist named Lawrence Kohlberg discussed that in different stages of life, age groups work to develop aspects of their cognitive mind. At the beginning of adolescence, teens are typically more concerned with their conventional intelligence, the tendency to follow rules just based on social approval, which is then compared to later teen years where they develop post-conventional morality, which their actions are based on their beliefs of right and wrong principle. So what if teens started developing mentally later in adolescence? Well, this is the reality society faces, as 25 is the new 18. Teenagers now are less likely to participate in adult activities such as going out and drinking, or having sexual relationships compared to past generations. In the early 2010s, students in grade 12 were going out far less than those in the 8th grade in 1990. There were two sides to everything, and the positive aspect of technology has made kids develop the thought process that all humans should have the same right. But on the other hand, they are less likely to experience many critical memories that help them develop. A lot of adolescents are now postponing responsibilities and maturing later in life at their own rate. In the past, after the first signs of puberty, teens will then begin to accept adult-like responsibilities such as working, relationships, and reproducing. Physical and mental development are important aspects of emerging into an adult. However, as teens now are evolving earlier in physical aspects but later cognitively, this is leaving them vulnerable to the real world, with many young adults now struggling to live on their own as they didn't develop the necessary skills in adolescence to do so. Many of these skills teens used to develop in adolescence are becoming abolished, as this is the first generation where society doesn't have to work for everything. To add to that, the transition to adulthood is beginning to be longer on both sides. As compared to the early 1890s, there was a span on average of 7 years between menarche to marriage. Then in 1995, the span is up to 12.5 years for this. No adult alive today would be the same if it wasn't for developing physical and mental traits in adolescence. Even if children nowadays are developing physically earlier and mentally later than our ancestors, it is all helping them slowly emerge into an adult at their own rate. Adolescence is just one of the stages along a long road of life, and every generation is trying to adapt their ways to try and better society, whether everyone knows it or not. So thank you for listening to my presentation on adolescent development. And here is just a list of references that help put this presentation together.